In this demonstration, we're going to have a look at how to configure certificates for client access servers in Exchange 2010. To do this, we're going to need to use the new Exchange certificate wizard. We'll approve the certificate, and then we'll set up subject alternative names in the certificate as well, so that we can use the certificate for various different services. So one of the problems that we have with Windows Server 2008 is it doesn't issue certificates with multiple subject names. So what we'll need to do is just modify the server configuration on van DC1. To do this, all I'm going to do is just run a command prompt. So we'll go to cmd.exe, right click on this, and we'll just run this as administrator. The next thing I need to do here is just type in the command prompt to allow me to have multiple subject names. So type in the command certutil setreg policy edit flags plus edit f underscore attribute subject alt name 2. Hit return. It's telling me here that what I need to do is stop and restart the certificate services, so I'll just do that now. So I'll do a net stop and then space cert serve. Hit return. Next thing we'll do is restart the services. All done. Next thing I need to do is just move over now to my Exchange server, and I need to go into the Exchange Management Console so that I can configure the rest of the certificate services. So now across on my Exchange server, what I need to do here is I'm just going to modify the client access server. So into client access, and what I want to do here is, if we just have a look, we need to configure our external client access domain. Click on the wizard. Within here, now all I need to do is just specify the server selection. So I've specified my mail.datum.com. Next thing I need to do is just add the client access servers that are going to use this. So we'll click add. And what we'll do here is we'll specify our two main Exchange servers. So now I'll just highlight van ex1, van ex2, click OK. Next thing to do, click configure. Just got this little pop-up. This is purely because DNS isn't configured on these servers, so we'll just say yes we are, sure we want to continue. That's all done now, so the next thing to do, click finish. Now we've done all of that, the next thing we need to do is just configure our external URL. So I do have van ex1 configured here. I'm now just going to configure my external URL. So on van ex1, we're going to just come into the Outlook Web Access default website. And what we want to do here is just set our external URL and make sure and verify that it does match the certificate name, which in this case it does. So we'll just click OK at this point here. Click our server configuration, and what we want to do here is just create a new Exchange certificate. So in the wizard, what we'll do here, new Exchange certificate. And then we need to enter a friendly name for the certificate. So the name I'm going to use here is just a datum mail certificate. Click our next button. Now what we've got here is we can decide exactly the domain scope that we want in place here. So what we could do is select the enable wildcarding for this certificate checkbox and enter root domain. If we'd like to apply the certificate automatically to all subdomains. So what we're going to do here, though, we're not going to bother with any wildcards. We've only got the one Exchange server anyway, and we're only going to use certificate for single purpose. So we'll click next. On the Exchange configuration page, the next thing that we're concerned about here is setting up a certificate for Outlook Web App. So we'll expand this up here. We'll select our Outlook Web App is on the intranet, and we'll also specify that it's on the internet and specify the two names. So this will give us our two subject names within the certificate. We'll then go for our Exchange Active Sync as well. And what we'll do here is we'll just ensure that Exchange Active Sync is enabled, which in this case it is. Expand the client access server being the next thing here for the web services. And within here what we're going to do is we're just going to enter mail.datum.com in the case of our certificate name. So yeah, we've got the right external host there. We're going to set up auto discover as well to be used on the internet as well for active sync, so we don't have to worry our users about putting in their connection details. So we're all happy with that. We'll click our next button. Next thing we'll do on the certificate domain, just make sure everything's intact here. There you go, there's our domain, so this is all correct. Click next, and on the organization location page, we're going to fill out the table here. So we've got in here, datum is my organization, messaging is my OU, we've got Canada as a country region, Vancouver, and we're in British Columbia. Next thing to do is just set up the file that we're going to use to create the certificate. So we'll just click browse. What we're going to do here is just type insert request for the name of the file. Once we've done all of that, we'll just save this off. Click our next button. Click new. And then click finish. Now that we've done all of that, the next thing we need to do is just export out the certificate so that we can generate our certificate. So just into Windows Explorer, and the next thing we're going to click on here is just Documents. Right click our cert request, just open it up, and we're just going to open it up with Notepad. So we'll click OK at this point here. Next thing we need to do here is just highlight all of the text, so we'll press Ctrl A. Now that we've done that, we'll save that off, so Ctrl C. And what we'll now do is just come into Internet Explorer and we'll just submit this certificate request to our Active Directory domain controller, which is doubling up as a certificate authority as well. So we'll go in Internet Explorer, so I'm going to now just go to vandc1 at datum.com and then go to the certificate server. Let's put the URL in. Just going to connect through the certificate server. I'll just need to log in as administrator. So we'll do a datum, / and then administrator. Put in the password. Hit OK. On my page here, I need to request a certificate. We're going to go for an advanced certificate request, and I'm going to select my submit a certificate using 64-bit. Control V at this point here, just to fill in the certificate request. It's going to be for a web server. This is the bit that everybody always forgets to change. And then next thing to do, just click submit. Next thing to do, download my certificate. Click my save button. And what I'm going to do here is search new. So what we're going to do here is just click the save button. Now it's downloaded. We'll just open up the certificate. We'll just have a quick look at this just to ensure that everything is set up correctly. So as we can see, we've got all of the settings in place here. We've got our alternative name as well for the server. We've got our main name in here for the subject. So we've got the internal and the external certificate really within here. Now that I'm happy that all of this is done, next thing to do, just click OK. Next thing to do, just come back to the Exchange Server Management. So now we're in our Exchange Management console, we'll just highlight the certificate. Next thing to do is just complete my pending request. Browse through, so we'll just come into favorites and go to our downloads button. We've got our certificate here, so highlight certificate, click open, click complete, click finish. And what we should now see is we should see our datum mail certificate is now installed. Not self-signed, did come from a certification service. So the next thing to do will be to assign these services to a certificate. So we'll highlight the certificate, assign services to the certificate. What we'll do here is we'll just select our server, highlight our server, click next, and then we'll decide exactly what we want to select as the services. So this point here we'll go for Internet Information Services. So that's our Outlook web app and Exchange Active Sync. Click our next button, click assign, and click finish. So now what we've done, we've set all of this up. We decide which services are going to be utilized by the certificate. So now when our users go into Outlook web app, or if they go into Exchange Active Sync, they're not going to get a certificate error, which, you know, as administrators or as users, we would tell people to ignore. So that's the end of the demonstration of assigning a certificate to the Exchange services. Thanks for